Welcome back then to Money Laundering 2, and the first thing we want to go at is how, when I do that A/C, that means accountants, or sometimes accounts actually, but anyway, how accountants are protected. Okay, so in terms of money laundering, it looks like it's quite a dangerous thing, doesn't it? There's lots of money laundering offences that we could fall into. So general defences are, if you have a suspicious transaction, report it to the money laundering reporting officer. Okay, that's your first line of defence. A second line of defence would be you intend to report, so you intended to report to the MLRO, but there was a reasonable excuse for not doing so. So a reasonable excuse for not doing so. And the reasonable excuse could be something like, a fear of violence. That would be something, you were scared what would happen if this person found out they threatened you or something. Then that would be enough of a defence. Then the third line of defence is we assumed reasonably. So it's got to be a reasonable assumption, obviously. We assumed that client action was legal, was in good faith. So even though they were carrying out money laundering, you actually had no suspicions. You just presumed it was all okay and reasonable. There weren't any hugely unusual transactions. So there are your three main lines of defence. What we go on to now is how do we go about preventing and detecting it then? And it's linked to what we've done before as well. How are we protected? Well, we've got to do all these following things. Basically, we've got to have a culture, an anti-money laundering culture. And that's got to be from the top down. Everybody at the top, your audit partners, they need to say, look, we are on top of this anti-money laundering. We take it very seriously. We train. Everybody knows what it's about. We have risk management procedures. And this is the same for a business as well, that they will need risk management regarding money laundering procedures and internal controls. You remember we mentioned that last time. That there's a money laundering reporting officer. That record keeping for all transactions. All transactions. So all these are good things that you want to be suggesting in the exam. Keep systems for initial verification. So back to this customer due diligence. Systems for initial verification of customers. And remember we said it's an ongoing thing and continued monitoring. Customer due diligence at the start and continuing. Have suspicious reporting. So suspicious or suspicions reporting systems, reporting procedures, I guess. Have those in place so people know where to go. Obviously to the money laundering reporting officer. And linked to that, educate and train your staff. Okay, in the main requirements of the legislation. If you don't, they could find themselves tipping off or whatever it might be. So that brings us then to the importance of customer due diligence, which I think I've reiterated enough. So what we've got to have then is identification procedures, as we said. We've got to know the client. How do I know my client then? Well, there's a few things. Think of their business patterns. Because if something doesn't fit the business pattern, then you go, that's a suspicion. Okay, so like for my business, I obviously run academies, and the exams are every 6 months, and so therefore my income is every 6 months. If I suddenly got income of 30,000 in halfway through, that would be very, very strange. Even if it was 30,000 split up into bits of 100, that would be very, very strange. They're saying, why are you receiving that now? Okay, so get to know your client, know their business patterns, know their business model. Same thing, the more you know about them, then the more anything odd will come about. Okay, understand where their funds come from, where their income comes from. If you can understand that, then you'll be highlighted if you find some income coming from a place where you didn't expect. Okay. Other things that we can do that I want to talk about here. We're going to do this bit, by the way, the anti-money laundering program and reporting in the next session. But yeah, I just want to talk about the money laundering reporting officer in a bit more detail, actually. If he's away, or she, then you must appoint a deputy. There's got to be always a place to go, okay? And that deputy will make reports as soon as it's practicable. Sole practitioners, as I mentioned before, you don't need one if you're a sole practitioner. So what do? Well, they look at and create internal reports on money laundering. They decide if there's sufficient grounds for suspicion. So they decide kind of if there's sufficient evidence or sufficient grounds for the suspicion to carry on and take it to a further higher external authority. They will obviously prepare any external reports as well in order to present to the appropriate authority. They will liaise with the external authorities. They will be the key contact. They will advise the engagement team on what to do next, how to approach it. They will decide the training. So link there, that'll be the money laundering reporting. They will help train on money laundering matters because they will be the experts, and they will be designing the anti-money laundering program. And that's a nice way to end, because that's what we're going to be having a look at next, alongside what reports do we actually have to produce.